All right, well, welcome. My name is Lisa Keohokalole Schauer, and I am excited to be here this February to kick off our Interstate Bridge Replacement Program Community Advisory Group meeting. I'd like to go ahead and get started with our slides. Our meeting today includes closed captions in both English and in Spanish. Our closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window. Next slide. Our meeting participation tips. So we appreciate you joining us today. And we ask that if you join by audio, please use either your phone or your computer, but not both. We encourage our panelists to turn on your video. We ask that you keep your audio on mute when not speaking. Of course, if you have any technical difficulties, we ask that you contact program staff at 360-329-6744. We have closed captions when you're in the Zoom room, and you can find those at the bottom middle of the screen. You'll see the options, and you can click on the CC icon and a separate window will appear. Today we have ASL interpretation. This is something that's important to the program. And in order for us to be able to ensure that our participants within the Zoom room and those that are viewing on YouTube have the interpretation, you will likely only see the ASL interpreter and the slides. When we do engage in a conversation, we'll ask that the slides be brought down so that the whole room is viewable for participation among all members of the Community Advisory Group. We often open the meeting for public comment at around 5:45. Verbal public comment will be welcome in the Zoom webinar during this designated time with the option to turn on your web camera. We ask that you use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IBR CAG meeting webpage. Commenters will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. If you'd like to comment by phone, you can dial 1-669-900-6833 or 1-408-638-0968. Enter meeting ID 993-5459-6043, passcode 674942. Go ahead and dial *9 to raise your hand, and after you're invited to speak, please use dial *6 to unmute yourself. Our meeting agenda today, well, my co-facilitator, Johnell Bell, is joining our program administrator, Greg Johnson, and they are up in Seattle at a sound transit meeting. And so today we will be moving through our welcome, meeting overview, a bit of an introductions and a check-in with our community advisory group, of a program update. And then we will go into our communications approach for the draft SEIS public comment period discussion. And we'll get into some details around Hayden Island Transit Station. Again, we'll have public comment at 5:45, and then we intend on closing the meeting by 6 today. We want to remind folks that our meeting space is a safe space, and we ask that our CAG members continue to put relationships first. They stay focused on our common goal. Notice the power dynamics in the room, create space for multiple truths, practice being kind and brave, and examining racially biased systems and processes. And as always, look for opportunities for learning. I'd like to go ahead and turn the meeting over to our co-chairs, Ed Washington and Lynn Valenter, for an open welcome and discussion among the CAG members. Lynn or Ed? Who's going to kick us off?
I'll go ahead and start. First of all, I want to just let you know that Fabian has been reaching out to each of you to just have a getting to know you, getting to check in call, and Ed and I are joining as able. So I want to thank you in advance for responding and making yourself available. We've had a few of those calls, but it's particularly wonderful for us, for those of you that have been with us for 3 years, just to check in and kind of see what's what. And then for our newer members, it's a little bit of time, because back when we started all of this more than 3 years ago, we fully envisioned that we would be transitioning to face-to-face meetings, and that's many of our preferences. But logistics, frankly, make that complicated. Oh, wouldn't a new bridge help? Maybe. But in any case, we do appreciate being able to visit with each of you. If you have something specific you'd like to share, that's great. If not, Fabian has some questions. But I do want to thank each of you for being willing to join in that conversation. Ed?
Well, it's always so very hard for me to follow Lynn. I so enjoy, I enjoy listening to her describe everything, but just say it's indeed a pleasure to have you all here today. And it's just so hard to believe that we're going on 3 years. It's amazing how fast the time is passing and has passed. And I just hope that the bridge will go up just as fast and as quickly as all of the time that you all have put in. That's all I have to say today. As long as I can hear good greetings from Lynn, it makes my afternoon. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. And then all of us are fairly well versed in the icebreaker, but I would ask each of the CAG members to raise your hand, and then we're going to ask each of you to share your name, organizational affiliation or at-large status, pronouns, and then the icebreaker or check-in for today is, if you could choose to live in a different place for a year, where would you choose? And so I'm going to start off with picking on Michaela, because we already had our check-in. So we're just, married at the hip. So Michaela, will you start, and then you can call on anybody else whose hand is raised. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Williams. I'm an at-large community member for the Washington side of the project, and my pronouns are she, hers. And if I could live anywhere for a year, I really enjoyed my summer living in Tokyo. So I think that would be a really fun place to live for an entire year. I love Japan, the culture, the city life, the countryside. It was all really amazing, and they're such nice people. So I would probably go to Japan. I will call on Irina.
Okay, I think, okay. Irina Phillips, East European Coalition, she, her, and I'm 3 years on this CAG committee. And if I need to leave for a year somewhere else, it'd probably be Greece or something in Europe, something Mediterranean. Okay, and I'm picking Tom Hickey.
Thank you. Tom Hickey, I'm on the CAG. I represent the North Portland neighborhood associations and speak for the neighborhoods. I'm going to go live with Irina because I was actually thinking a little village in Tuscany somewhere, and I don't know what village that would be, but someplace close enough to visit Florence regularly, but not actually have to live in Florence. So Irina, if that works for you, that's fine with me. Oh, I'm sorry, Julia.
That'd be Julie?
Dumbia. I think it's Julie Dumbia.
Okay. All right. And I'm hands-free in the car currently, so I do not have my video on, but my name is Julie Dumbia, and I represent I'm an at-large community member from from Northeast Portland. I use she, her pronouns. And if I could live anywhere for a year, I've always wanted to go to Madagascar. I think it'd be really cool to see the lemurs there and work on French. So that's where I would be. And for the next person, how about Dina?
Thank you very much. My name is Dina Horton. I'm the Government Relations Director for the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. I represent the river users and multimodal freight movers for this project. She, her pronouns, and I used to live in Florence, Italy when I was in college. Absolutely loved it. But if I could choose, I would probably live more in the Lake Como, Lago di Garda area of Italy, which is absolutely gorgeous, and highly recommend if you enjoy Mediterranean lifestyle on the higher scale end. I will turn it over to Darcy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Darcy Hoffman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm with Workforce Southwest Washington, representing the Columbia Willamette Workforce Collaborative. And let me just be honest and practical and say, I don't really want to live anywhere but here if it's for a whole year. There's lots of places I think that I would like to visit, but if we're talking a year, I just want to stay right where I'm at here in Ridgefield, Washington. And I will call on Marcus.
I have no such restrictions. Thank you. I'm Marcus Mundy. I'm at the Coalition of Communities of Color. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm on the CAG. But I think I would go somewhere warm, and I think it would be Zihuatanejo, Mexico. I've been there a couple of times, and it is very, very lovely. And I could last a year in the warmth and in the weather. So that's me. So with that, I will pass it to Martha. Good to see you, Martha.
Hi, I am Martha Wiley. I'm an at-large member in Washington, in Vancouver, and my focus is on transit, both paratransit and regular buses, or any kind of transit. And when I was in high school, I had a goal of living for a year in a foreign country, and I was able to do that when my husband got a job in Germany, where we actually lived for 6 years. So I think if I could live anywhere, I would go back to Germany for another year. It was great. And the transit is fantastic. Okay, so I will pick on Zachary.
Hi, folks. Thank you for the pass there, Martha. My name is Zachary Lauritsen. I use he, him pronouns. I'm at Oregon Walks. We do pedestrian advocacy. This prompt made me think of a book that I've always thought would be fun to write, because it would be a chance to travel, which is a month in a different city around the world for 12 months. And then you write about that experience of travel. And I was thinking, Marcus, you really resonated with me, which is follow the sun. So you might be in the southern hemisphere during the right months, and in the northern here in the other right months. Could be in Harare, you could be in Tokyo, you could be in Paris, you could be in, Montevideo. So like that would be my dream, would be to travel around to different places, kind of hijacking that question. I will pass it to Jay Clark. Are you part of the CAG?
Yes, I'm Jay Clark. I'm with the Portland Metro Chamber. I'm part of the government affairs team. He, him pronouns, and anywhere for a year, Cooperstown, New York. And for those of you that don't know Cooperstown, it's in upstate New York, the home of the Baseball Hall of Fame, and absolutely the most beautiful small town in America. And I will pick Sam.
Well, thank you, Jay. So Sam Kim, I'm at large member from Brush Prairie, Washington. My pronouns are he, him. Let's see. I was gonna say my desired location would be Seoul, South Korea. When we left Korea many years ago, it was a dirt poor nation. Now it's 12th largest economy in the world. It's just shocking. However, Darcy reminded me that it's bitter cold winter. So I changed my mind, and I want to live in Hawaii for a year. Any island would do. And now I pick Sherry.
Hi, good afternoon. Sherry Call. I am president of the Washington Trucking Association, representing trucking on obviously the Washington side of things. I don't see my Oregon colleague here. I think I'm an original member of the CAG. I know I've been doing this since we started early on, and gosh, yeah, representing freight by road. So shout out to my fellow freight people here, Dina and others. If I could live anywhere for a year, I spent 2 weeks on Lefkada's Grace this summer, and I would certainly go back there and live on the water. So, and I will turn it over to Bill.
Great. Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Bill Prouse. I'm with the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs, he, him pronouns. And I think if I like Oregon. I've been here all my life. I've traveled a little bit, and I don't know where else I'd want to be with the seasons that we have sometimes. But I think if I was going to move somewhere for a year or so, I might go to the Bahamas so that I can enjoy the water, enjoy the weather, get tired of the hot weather, and move back to Oregon after that year. So somewhere from there. So I'm going to go to Dina.
I already spoke, but I agree on the Lefkado's comment from Sherry. I have a friend who has a catamaran there. How about Jarena?
Hi, Jarena Hatch. She, her pronouns. I work with Community in Motion. We're a non-emergency medical transportation brokerage over in Vancouver, Washington. I've been on the CAG for about a year now, year and a half, somewhere in that range. If I had to live somewhere else for a year, it would probably be Scotland, because I think there's a lot there I want to see. That's all. Let's see. Is there anybody else left?
I don't see any, but Michael Watkins, I'm guessing you may not have the, because you're a CAG member. Do you want to tell us where you'd like to live for a year?
Sure. Hi, I'm Michael Watkins. I'm the tribal manager for the Cowlitz Indian tribe, and my pronouns are he, his, and I would probably say I would go with Hawaii, as I've spent a lot of time over there, and again, probably any island, but Molokai probably would be the best because it's probably the most traditional island of them all. So that's probably my guess. Thank you.
I think that's everyone. Speak now or we'll get going. But thank you. This takes a little bit of the place of having that interpersonal connection that one gets when we are face to face. So really appreciate and thanks to Fabienne for coming up with creative ways for us to check in. With that, I think Lisa's going to introduce our speaker, our frequent speaker, and we look forward to that. But Lisa?
Thanks, Lynn. We want to actually just take a minute and ask you a question. And I would really like it if everyone could just kind of channel those that are organizational members, what your organizations might respond to when I ask a question. So, and at large, what you think the community's response might be. We try to engage the public as much as possible. And many of us have been in this space for over 3 years. We do our public comment. We say when we're going to do our public comment. We move it to the end of the meeting. We were curious if you had any input or insights around whether we should move that public comment to the beginning of the meeting, or we should offer the public comment both at the beginning and at the end. Our hope is that this is an accessible program where folks can provide input, and in particular, this space is about community and about engaging with our community. So we have a poll. Xander's ready to launch that poll. We'd love for you to tell us, do you think it would be more effective for you in your role to have public comment before or at the end of the meeting? Or do you think it might be helpful to offer it in the beginning of the meeting and at the end? So go ahead and feel free to give us your input. We certainly are not going to make any changes until we've been able to really share with the community when they can provide public input. But we've been doing it the same way for the last 3 years and always want to question, is it working? Is there a better way for us to reach our community? So appreciate those that have participated in the poll already. Maybe we'll allow the poll to be up. Irina, you have a question or a comment?
I have a comment.
Okay.
And I answered that I prefer to keep it at the end because of the timing, because so many people in my community, they work, so they cannot provide the comment at 4 o'clock. So, but close to 6 o'clock is doable.
Great feedback. If you have or have not participated in the poll and have other feedback, we'd love to hear it. This isn't the only time we're going to ask, but we did want to make sure that before we made a decision about making any changes, we first asked you what you thought. Okay. All right. Had about 14 folks participate. Xander, do you want to go ahead and share the results? We can always come back to the results too. Okay, I think maybe what we'll do is we'll go ahead and come back and share a bit of the results. If you have any other feedback, please let us know, and we'd be happy to kind of hear your perspective. We're going to move into the program update. Excited to see that our Assistant Program Administrator, Ray Mabey, is back with us again. Was here to share updates last month, and I'll just turn over the program updates to you. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks. Thank you, Lisa. Pleasure to be back again. Happy to be here and just echo the comments about the past 3 years of engagement with this group and the value provided the program. An immense amount of gratitude for all the input, all the engagement, all the critical thought that you've provided the program and the discussion here. So, and look forward to that continued discussion of this group and seeing its value play out. So if I could have the next slide, please. So just quick updates on our engagement activities. We've been busy. And you've probably seen the trend. Seems like we're always busy engaging and talking to people in different groups. I guess one of the things I'd like to start with is we did have the Federal Highway Administration Administrator from the Washington, D.C., Shaylin Bott. He came out to visit the project. That is significant because that's showing there is high interest from the highest levels of our partner agencies, the FTA and Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway Administration, USDOT, around this project. To have him come out and get a tour is really critical for us to have him exposed to the project, the team, and we did provide a program overview presentation. We took him on the bridge and actually gave him the bridge tour and visited the machine room and the operating room. He was able to get out on the sidewalk and understand those conditions. And then we also gave a program area tour. This is really important. We have a Federal Highway Bridge Investment Program grant application in. We hope to hear in the next probably month or two on the outcome of that, but we're asking for $1.5 billion. So having him have eyes on, meeting the team, understanding the challenges we're facing and what we're trying to accomplish is really valuable. So we're really pleased to have that visit and have his engagement. We also had the administrators from the Federal Transit Administration and the two the regional office and then the Federal Highway Administration regional office administrators here as well participating. We also have had some Other engagement, we had an equity roundtable last night. Got to listen in on that and hear the great discussion. They were really focusing on strategies around equitable community engagement. And the panelists had great discussions around their advice on how programs like ours can meaningfully connect with communities, especially those that are experiencing significant barriers, and how we can overcome those. It did include some panelists from our CPO mini grant cohort and program staff. So really good engagement and discussion. It was, I guess, I don't know, fun's a good word, I guess, but it was fun for me to listen to because it was really engaging and had people offering creative ideas and their experiences. So that was a great opportunity. We've also had some industry engagements recently with 3 main meetings with a small business roundtable, where the Administrator Johnson gave an in-depth program overview, discussed our efforts with our partners and legislative bodies to keep this program moving forward, to kind of make sure that they understood where our partner agreements are and alignment. I mean, we mentioned last time that we got the $600 million mega grant. That didn't happen without the good work of this group and the regional alignment that we have around this program, and the support that we have with our partners. So Greg was able to share that and then talk about the legislative support we've had and the support we'll need moving forward. We also then met with Apex and CRDC, and Greg again presented. He's a busy guy. And he talked about our packaging. We were looking at how to approach building this program, how to break it up in different construction packages, how to sequence those over time, how to break them down into reasonable size contracts that promote the biddability, constructability, maintaining traffic, as well as providing opportunities for local contractors, DB contractors, small businesses. So he shared some of the work we're doing there, and he specifically around those DB opportunities and how we're trying to focus on providing those. We also met with the Association of General Contractors, AGC. They came, there was a chapter that represents Oregon and Southwest Washington. And so they came and had a program presentation as well on very similar topics around the packaging, what the program status is today. And then we did a program area tour with them to help them understand the scale of this program, because it is a mess. And how we're going to need to approach constructing it and breaking down those packages, and what those opportunities might be, what risks they saw in the program, and feedback they may have. So we had really good dialogue there. We'll continue to engage them, the industry, as we move forward with potential workshops on opportunities for the program, and have greater invitation to a larger event, I believe, in the spring. And then lastly, there was a presentation to Vancouver Innovation, Technology, and Art for the Vita School. And this is always fun because you're meeting with kids. And here we met with 2 5th grade classes with over 40 students, and talked about how you build a bridge, how you consider the solutions that can be focused on good solutions around our environment and economically, or eco-friendly solutions, excuse me. We need economic solutions as well. And with kids, it's always good to have hands-on. So there were some hands-on exercises to have them work through a bridge that can bring some of those that can reduce environmental impacts, and get them thinking about those solutions. Now that's pretty heady stuff for a 5th grade class, but really great that they're thinking that way and are interested in the program. So those types of activities really pay dividends. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So I know there's been some questions around the bridge permit process, how we are working with the Coast Guard and our other fellow partners around and the Army Corps around how we accommodate the river freight and river traffic. And so we wanted to provide an update around that. We did receive a preliminary navigation clearance determination from the Coast Guard. That was based off of a navigation impact report that we did that described our outreach to the river users and feedback from them on what they thought they needed. And in that navigation determination, that preliminary one, they took that information and said that we've got some users that need something that gets to the current height of 178 feet or unlimited. And that was our guidance back to the program. Now we know that we are examining a fixed span of 116 feet. And we think that meets the needs of over or nearly 100%, but probably over 97% of the river traffic, except for folks that are occasionally build big things or vessels or a few vessels that may need to modify their vessels to be able to get through a lower bridge. So we're taking two approaches looking at how to solve this issue. One is we're working with the potentially impacted users, the businesses and the vessels that might have issues with 116-foot clearance, and figuring out what those impacts are and reaching an agreement and letting the Coast Guard know that we've settled those issues. But on the other hand, we as we work through the NEPA process, we need to make sure that we have solutions that are permittable. And given their determination, we need to include a movable span. So we've included a lift span in the analysis. I think it's really important for us to understand the impacts and benefits of that on not only the traffic, but also the transit that needs to cross the bridge as well, and cost. All these things need to be considered. Now, I think I've covered that slide, but I think that we're working both paths, but we really believe that we'll be able to bring information back to the Coast Guard such that they can consider issuing a revised determination that allows 116 feet, so we can move forward with that permitting process. Next slide, please. As we think about the bridge and how it crosses the river, today we have three channels that serve river navigation. We have the primary channel, we have the alternate channel, we have a barge channel, and they're laid out in the river. I think from north to south as a primary is where the lift span is, and then there's an alternate channel just to the south, and then the barge channel is where the hump of the bridge is just further south. That was added when the second bridge was built in 1958 to reduce the number of bridges they were seeing. But we are looking at changing with the fixed span alternative or option. We are looking at shifting that primary channel just to the south to align with the crest of the bridge. So that would be the 116-foot clearance where the primary channel would be, to better line up with the downstream Burlington Northern Santa Fe Bridge. And what we've done to look at the impacts and benefits of that is we've done simulations with the Army Corps and created a computer model of the river flow, our pier locations, and modeled different vessels when we had captains of different vessels come and actually run this model almost like a video game and pilot their vessels through the program area. and get their feedback. And what we heard was that our proposed changes actually improve their navigation through the program area, given different considerations of lining up for the bridge downriver, as well as crossflows in the river and how they may push you to one bank or another. They did note that we've got fewer in-water piers in the final configuration, which is improved from our current situation, and that the primary channel, new primary channel, lines up better with that downstream bridge. And in the fixed configuration of either the fixed in the configurations of the fixed or even with a movable span, we have improved clearance overall compared to the bridge that's in its closed condition today. Next slide, please. This is another slide that we shared with the executive steering group to kind of show the context of what we're talking about along the Columbia River. And there's a lot in this, so I'll walk through it. If you look to your left and you see the deep draft sign, that's where the Army Corps has authorization to dredge to allow those larger vessels up the river. And they have access to different ports along the river. You'll see there that I think we've got a let's see, the dots. Yeah, the dots are the ports. You'll see the access to the ports there. And then you'll see our bridge site at the 4 number there. That's where our bridge sits. And I-5 crosses the Columbia. And see that deep draft dredging actually stops as you get to our bridge. And then further up the Columbia River, it's shallow, maintained at a shallow draft. And that's at 27 feet is that shallow draft. And so that really limits the vessels that can move upstream. So what I'm trying to do in this chart is share where there's available opportunities, where there's restrictions that allow future development or bigger loads moving upriver. If you look at at a high level scale, you'll see at our bridge, and then you start moving east or to the right, you'll see that we've got Portland, we've got and there is a Portland International Airport on the south bank. You'll keep moving to the east, you'll see number 5, which is the Glenn Jackson Bridge. And you'll see that has a vertical clearance of 136 feet, which is less than the opening on the current bridge we have today on I-5. And then you keep moving north, you'll see, or excuse me, west, you'll see that next you move into the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area, which has a moratorium on any development on the riverbank. So not much going to be happening there. And then you start getting into our dams that are upriver. And in those dams are locks that allow vessels to move up and down river, and vessels that to go up to our different ports and move grain and other shipments. Well, those locks in their widths and their depths limit the size of vessels that can go upriver. And the vessels that would challenge or need deep draft cannot move that far because of those limitations. And so if we go back to our program area between the items 4 and 5, the main area that we're looking at that we would potentially impact with our fixed bridge of 116 feet is really that limited area of development between the I-5 and I-205 bridges. The vessels that currently today work from the ports upriver that move the grain shipments and those goods through, would continue to move through a new bridge of 116 feet. But it's really where between the two interstates where there's some limited opportunity for any additional development similar to what's happening at the Columbia Business Center, where we have fabricators that occasionally make big things. So really just trying to frame the issue around the impact of a fixed bridge on future upriver development. It's really fairly limited compared to the broad opportunities that are downriver from our site. Next slide, please. Let's see. So I think there was another question around what we are considering in our modeling as we do look at river levels, and that there's things happening with the Army Corps that could potentially impact river levels. We know there's dam removals that are being considered. I think there's Snake River are some that are being looked at and conducted. So what does that mean for our site? How do we handle that? And so we've been actively coordinating with the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that our models forecast those future conditions and are incorporated in our environmental documents and studies. And so we do know that there are some a Columbia River Treaty that has some potential changes to our increased river flow and water being released from our dams that we need to take into account, and we have. And we've also looked at the dam removal upriver as well, and how it might potentially impact managing the river levels at our site, and coordinate that information with the Army Corps. Now, we know that that our dams currently operate with minimal water storage right now. We don't expect that to change. We know that other dams really do adjust their operations and will adjust our operations in response to the upriver dam removal. And we don't expect large changes in our modeling, or haven't expected or seen big changes in our modeling due to that, because of the controls of the dams that are closer to our site, because it is a controlled river. So what we want to make sure is we let people know that we've been coordinating with the Army Corps on these, and made sure that we've incorporated these ongoing issues into our design and analysis. Next slide, please. And so that's, I think Kimberly's next, but I'll see if there's any questions on the things I've shared. Some of it's pretty dense in information, and I may have gone fast, so see if there's questions. Looks like there's lots.
Well, there's 3 already, Ray. I think this is really something we wanted to make sure that the CAG has the opportunity to hear, is this particular topic, since you've asked about it. So I want to make sure that even though we're, I think, a little bit over kind of schedule, let's spend the time to ask the questions of Ray if you have them. So I see Dina, Julie, Martha, and Zachary. So Dina, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. I just wanted to say, I think from Vancouver to the Dalles, the Corps is authorized to have the channel at 27 feet, but I think they only maintain it to 14 feet, and it's 14 feet all the way to Lewiston, Idaho and back. So you're right when you say it's very restricted in terms of the kinds of movements that can take place. The other thing I would say that, I'm hoping that you guys you mentioned in passing sort of the Columbia River Treaty. The flood control agreement for that expires in September of 2024. So we're already having to see the potential for very vastly different water flow changes starting now. And that's regardless of whether or not sometime in the future the Snake River dams exist or not. So I'm hoping that we take that into account significantly, as well as any potential dam removal options. But since it was just mentioned sort of in passing, I didn't feel like it maybe got as much attention as it probably should, since it's happening starting in September.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dina. Yeah, there's a lot to do, a lot to mention there, but I appreciate the clarification and point on that. Yeah, it's imminent.
Julie, are you in a place where you can ask a question?
Yeah. I had a quick question. So with the adjustments that you mentioned with the navigation channel, I was just wondering if there would be any benefits of that to commuters as well, such as like less disruption, crossing the road. I just was kind of curious if there was any nexus with those changes and how that would affect commuters using the bridge.
Yeah, so good question, Julie. I think with the fixed span option, that obviously would reduce any lifts for commuters, so that would have a direct impact. The other option with movable span, we would also be looking for that same location of the crest of the bridge. It'd actually be a flat area where the lift span would be, but it'd be in the same location as that main channel, and it would be higher than it is today, which would allow for more traffic to go under the bridge without that would reducing bridge lifts. So that would also have a reduction, but it would still have lifts required for larger vessels. We've worked with the Coast Guard to see if they could restrict those timelines to potentially evening hours, or because right now they do restrict the lifts in the morning commute and afternoon commute. But we really, with transit operations being something with light rail on the bridge, the future bridge, having lifts during their operations would be very disruptive to headways and on-time performance. And so the Coast Guard has a process to go through and can't guarantee that they could restrict those lift times. So there could be impacts to the traveling public, either in their vehicles or in transit if the lifts happen during the day.
Martha?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for providing that graphic, the map that shows downriver and upriver and the depths and whatnot. That's the first time I've seen that really addressed, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Martha. I appreciate that. And maybe to get to Dina's comment about the depth, it does scour out naturally to, I think, about 17 feet through our bridge program area, where we don't, the Army Corps doesn't need to dredge. It naturally scours out at that depth. And there are no plans that we're aware of, and talking to the Corps about dredging above the bridge to their authorized depth. But that authorized depth is something we need to be mindful of as we do look at demoing the old bridge, because we'll need to remove any existing piers to at least 5 feet below the authorized dredging depth to make sure that we don't interrupt any potential future operations.
Zachary?
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ray, for the presentation. I had 2 questions. One was, I was thinking about the virtual experience that the boat operators had, and it made me think of one of the requests that has come out of this committee a number of times, which is a kind of a virtual 3D model from the shoreline, looking up what would the different bridges look like. And I was curious if there was just any updates on when those might become available to the public. And then the second one might be just like totally off the wall. But one of our concerns at Oregon Walks is the sheer size of the bridges, like the bridge and the different designs, and the impact on the pedestrian experience when they're having to navigate those large distances. So the question is, can bridges be used upstream to reduce the water flow, like on that once a year time, to get a larger boat underneath a bridge downstream? Again, don't know if that's a thing, but I was just kind of curious.
Well, I'm going to have to come back to that question, so I'm not sure I understand it. But your first question around the modeling, we are working on new renderings that show additional detail based off the things I think we're talking here today about, is some of the more understanding of the urban design at the waterfront in Vancouver, like we talked about last time, about how it looks on Hayden Island. And so that work has progressed to a point where we think we have more defined 3D models we could share what it could look like. If you remember the past 3D models, they showed the bridge, but as it got to the banks, there was kind of nothing there because we didn't have it at the time. So we've got some new things in development that we hope to move out, I think, potentially this month out, so folks can see what those look like. So I don't want to get ahead of the team. Maybe Kimberly can weigh on that about the timing of that, but I think it's pretty imminent. We've seen some early drafts, so I think we're getting really close. So hopefully that scratches that itch, Zach. So I know people are hungry for that, and we want to see it too.
Okay. The second question, since the second question was a little confusing, I know we're a little bit behind. Why don't I check with you offline on that one so we don't have to use everyone else's time?
Happy to. Yeah, thanks, Zach.
Cool. Thank you.
Ray, his presentations last month and this month have also garnered questions that if you did not feel like you got an answer, I think Zach's done a great job of kind of following up. He's not the only one. So we really do want to hear from you. And if there's not enough time and space during the meeting, shoot us an email, and it gives us the opportunity to follow up with you too. So appreciate the questions and the comments.
We're really happy to answer those questions. So don't be afraid to ask them if you think of them later. Thank you.
It also helps us to see what questions other community members might be interested in, which leads us really well into the next presentation on communications. And what we're really looking for from our CAG is to help us ensure that our communications, one, that we're getting communications out to those that are interested in providing us comments, and that if you have feedback on how we can continue to engage with the community, we're always open to hear that. So I'm going to pass it over to Kimberly Webb, who's our communications lead, to share with us the plan for the draft SEIS public comment period. Kimberly.
Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to see everybody again. Before I get started, I can quickly answer the question about the new renderings. And we are excited to say that we could have these ready by early spring or sooner. So stay tuned. We'll be very excited to share them with you. So as Lisa stated, we are going to talk about our communications approach for the draft SEIS and some of the things we're doing leading up to it. Our communications team works really closely and collaborates deeply with our community engagement and equity teams to ensure that our content and materials are addressed with an equity lens. And so we are fully engaging and preparing people for participation. So next slide, please. So we want to take a moment to really understand what this public comment period looks like and how we're helping people understand the draft SEIS. So once this document is released, the community will have 60 days to submit their public comments. And we already have information available on our website about what we are studying in that. So people can start to prepare themselves for understanding what the proposed investments are in the modified LPA, and to really understand that, and that will help them prepare for public comment. Once this is released, all the information, all the findings are in a 60-page summary. And we have to, it's a federal requirement to ensure that people can understand this document. And we are taking extra steps to help community members understand the findings, and we'll get into those details later. Another thing that is important is this document, it is going to be in a PDF format, but it's a searchable document. So people can easily look for keywords or for topics that are important to them. And it will also have an index available so people can leverage the index if necessary. So the team has been providing information about, again, what is being studied in the SEIS in multiple formats to prepare the public for this comment period that we're anticipating that will occur this spring. Next slide, please. So we have several approaches to ensuring we're preparing the public for participation now, but also in future processes. And so our approach to the communicating for the SEIS is based on 3 principles of informing, educating, and assisting. So we are informing everyone who might have an interest in participating in the SEIS and public comment period. And our tactics include distributing information and materials, presenting at neighborhood forums or events held by our 8 other program partners, and federally mandated public notices. But we're also reaching out to businesses, trade representatives, organized labor, and elected representatives as well. And we're also leveraging our social media channels to inform individuals who are interested, which is very popular among our equity priority community members. We're also helping educate people on the SEIS and the process. And our methods include producing a summary document, hosting public briefings, and producing video briefings that break down key sections of the document. But we're also working with our micro grant recipients to help members of equity priority groups understand the complex information and be ready for this upcoming process. And finally, we are assisting those interested in responding in multiple ways by creating lots of different channels for people to reach out to us through email, verbally in public meetings, through letters and other things. And we're also translating all of our critical materials in 8 languages. And our website already translates into 8 languages. So we're really, where we can, leveraging our website to create more accessibility as well. Next slide, please. So back to informing the public, there are some tools that we are doing. We are going to use some advertising and reaching out to specific media outlets, including equity media outlets, multilingual outlets, but also looking at print, radio, and social media advertising. We'll get a little more details into our video engagement strategy coming up, but we will also have written engagement with postcards, mailers, and display items for our public in-person events, and fact sheet, which is really trying to take that 60-page summary and distill it even further into a multi-page, less than 10 or even fewer page fact sheet. And then, of course, in-person events that we've already discussed, such as advisory group meetings like this and other public briefings that our community engagement team is leading. But then also the media. The media is a partner in helping us get information out in a widespread manner. And we're also leveraging the media to reach out to our equity priority communities with our team setting up press conferences with youth and multilingual media outlets set for some time this winter. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, just some of our channels that support the draft SEIS. We have already hit on at the existing channels, such as meetings like this, going to fairs and festivals, holding briefings and office hours and the such, and our social media content. Again, moving forward, when the draft is released, our community engagement team will lead holding some public meetings and public briefings, as well as other in-person and virtual events for people to ask questions and to get any assistance they need in participating in the public comment period. Next slide. So I'd like to take a minute to talk about our video engagement strategy. People learn, or they take in information in different ways. We will see some community members that will read the entire SEIS and dig into the appendices. Some people will get their information online and they just want to get short bursts of information. Other people will appreciate and maybe rely on videos. Youth in particular respond very well to videos from what we have seen. In the area, there's about 31,000 community members in the 5 Mile program area qualifying as an equity priority community. And 25% of this group is aged 16 to 25. And so we have found that social media, especially many of them are on Instagram and TikTok, that's how they see our content. But some longer form videos are also going to be helpful for individuals that will also be placed on our website. And so our strategy includes educational videos as well as technical videos. So our education videos will have some motion and some graphics and animation, helping people understand the process, why an SEIS is important, why what we're evaluating, and how people can read and comment. So more instructional and a how-to, and then of course the results of the SEIS. Some people may prefer more detailed information and would like, so we're expecting that. And so we will have videos featured on our webpage to help audiences navigate that document themselves, featuring subject matter experts providing a summary. So next slide. We're excited to announce that just yesterday we have launched our draft SEIS webpage. And this is the webpage where people will go to find the draft SEIS once it is posted. This page currently provides information that will help people prepare for the public comment period, and also for ways to reach out to us to set up office hours or answer any questions. So starting this week, we will start advertising that this page exists and get people used to going to this space, because this is where we will place the draft SEIS once it is ready for public comment. Next slide. So we would love to hear your thoughts on this, and 2 questions. And what recommendations do you have for us for communication strategies during the public comment period? And if there are specific approaches that you think would be effective?
Marcus and Tom.
All right. Yeah. I might have missed a slide, but one thing when you're doing both the media and the communications, that you do a lot of culturally specific focused media. There's language newspapers, language cable shows, Russian, Spanish, Vietnamese. There's ways to get the information out, language media, and the same with the culturally specific, at least on this side of the river. I don't know what's on Vancouver side, but we have 2 Black newspapers, Hispanic newspapers, Asian reporters, Asian newspapers, and all that's important because a lot of those communities are very close to the bridge. So that's the one thing. When you're putting your media and your communication strategy, make sure you have culturally specific outlets in mind. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that comment. On Monday, we did have an interview with the Slavic Communities Center for their radio station and such, and we're able to participate in that interview in Russian as well. And we are planning a multilingual press conference, including those media outlets that you have just described. So we will be happy to share the successes from those events and provide more information about our outreach plan to those outlets.
I just wanted to add, the program has done also advertisements and outreach through those publications too. And so I think that's a really important part of that centering equity approach. So just building on what Kimberly, you've already said. Tom, Martha, Dina.
All right, thank you. I think I said this before, but I would like to see there be a feedback loop for the commentary so that there's some way for the public to sort of watch the conversation develop over the 60 days. So some kind of like a Google group conversation or some sort of place where somebody could go and access the comments that have come in so far, so that we can see and refine and sort of work with each other as a community to develop the best commentary possible. So, you guys are going to be taking in data over 60 days as comments come in, but I feel like the community, for that to be sort of a fully developed conversation, there ought to be a way for the community to see the commentary that's come in already and make additional comments on those threads, say. So that's all I got.
Well, thank you for that suggestion. We are required to follow a federal process, and I don't know the answers if that's even possible, but we can check with our environmental team and follow up with you.
Martha?
Tom, I think that's a really good idea. I don't know how it would work federally or what, but I just feel like there ought to be a way. One thing I'm concerned about is how you plan to outreach to people and organizations who are opposed to the project. I mean, I know the county of Clark County has no permit authority over the bridge, which is a good thing, but they are opposed to transit. And that's just one example. Do you have have you developed some kind of approach to reach the people who have already indicated that they're not happy with this project, or are they just folded into the sort of overall public outreach program?
We do have members on our broader public affairs team that are reaching out to organizations that are in favor, but as well are opposed to the program. So we are reaching out to really anybody who wants to hear from us, and we could provide more details at another time on those outreach strategies.
Yeah, thank you.
Dina? Oh, sorry, Martha.
I think it was mentioned previously about, sort of having visuals or like, videos that could show you sort of, what it would look like to be able to go across, what it would look like, potentially from the water. For me, I think it would be fascinating to see some simulations of, what it looks like from the water as you're passing under it, either going downstream or going upstream. What it, could potentially look like, if the bridge is raised, if it's, fixed. I think there's things that help people visually wrap their head around what you're engineering wise talking about. And so a lot of those simulations and videos, I think, are super helpful. And I know you can do a lot with drone footage these days and a lot of AI, but I think that would be helpful in being able to sort of visually communicate what it is you're looking at and anticipating could potentially be built.
Completely agree, Dina. And we are in communications with our design team on what something like that could look like. Again, we are going to be releasing some visuals in this spring that focus on the features for people who are walking, biking, and rolling and accessing transit. So, but we do have an interest in continuing that work, and we'll keep this group posted on that.
Lynn and then Michaela.
Yeah, so when you started talking, I went on the website, Kimberly, and was looking at the draft, the SEIS page. And I thought I saw in the slide deck, I don't have that up, that there was a 60-day document already available. Did I see that, or did I make that up?
I think that may have been a screenshot of what the cover will look like.
No, it
the
was before
documents.
that. It was the slide before that. Oh, here we go. I thought there was some kind of document already available. Am I wrong?
No, the document will be published later this spring.
Oh, it's that the draft summary is 60 pages long, but that's not. Okay.
Yes, it's
okay,
not
that's
available
what
yet.
I was looking for. Okay, thank you.
Michaela?
Yeah. One thing that I find that I'm just like a really big fan of as someone who frequents TikTok and Instagram regularly, is I really do love the project's short form content and just like the humor that the social media team, I feel like, brings to certain aspects of the project, and like a particularly good example outside of the program that I always love to think of is like the Washington State DOT, like that social media gal or guy, whoever they are so funny. Like I will send like photos and screenshots to like family group messages of just, they'll be discussing like a program. And one of the really funny things that they do is like, they'll draw out the state of Washington on a piece of paper and like draw little lines. It is just, some people, it's not their thing and they think it's very unprofessional, but I'm just telling you, as someone who is, a young person, it is so funny. I just think it's very relatable. And I love that the program really kind of leans in to the short form video content that makes the project feel really down to earth and not so high level. Like the idea that anybody could watch one of these videos and like get an idea as to like what we're trying to do, I think is really important. And it helps bring in a greater majority of people who live in the area. And I want to applaud you guys for that, because I think that it's really entertaining to watch, but it's also very informative.
Well, thank you for that feedback, Michaela. I will definitely be sure to pass it on to our team. We're currently editing a video right now. That's another short that actually describes what a draft SEIS is and the content and the types of information that will be in it. So we're glad to get that direct feedback from a member of our community. Thank you.
Hi, Sherry. You have a comment too or question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say for the the freight community, and I know that this team has done some outreach with the Oregon Trucking Association. I don't think we've created that opportunity amongst our members, but would love to have that happen. But I think for the freight community, our concern, especially freight by road, is going to be the improvements with the bridge replacement and estimates in a better traverse time, so that they know that this is a project worth doing. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt on the part of industry that this is an important project and it's a project worth doing. But I think from our perspective, we need to see the return on investment in time savings and efficiency. So that's, probably just from a business perspective, that's what we'd like to see is the efficiency and gains. So, and I would love to, I know that there's a couple of emails that I owe folks on outreach, and would love to be talking about ways to schedule something to start interfacing with our industry a little bit closer.
That's great feedback for content. Thank you so much.
This is an important time in the program where there's a lot of information that is being sent out. And I was watching, I think it was the bi-state committee, and there was a comment that if you in the 60-day comment period are reviewing the whole document, you might be needing to do it at a pace of 100+ pages per day. And so the point of our community advisory group is to help us get the word out and help us to ensure that the community is able to engage in a document that large. So if there are ideas, please let us know. This is really meant to be something that's published in the next few months. So any interaction or any of those meetings that can be set up, I know that our communications and community engagement team would love to hear from you. So let us know. Okay, we are about ready to transition into the Hayden Island Station presentation, and we have cut the time with them a little bit because of all of the great interaction and the feedback. And so, Matt, I know that we had a little bit more time planned for this, and so I will just say that if we get to a place where we need to open up our public comment period, and we haven't made it through all of our slides and or questions, we'll always make sure to follow up, and if we need to, we can host another time where we continue the slides. But I want to make sure that we allow enough time at the end for the public comment, and you have enough time to really engage in this important presentation. So I'm going to pass it on over to you. Matt Dummel is one of our IVR design team leads, and have you get us started, Matt.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yeah, appreciate to be back here with the group. This is for those of you that were with us last month. This is a follow-on in a series that we're going to be working through. Today, we're going to be talking about the Hayden Island Station. As a little bit of a reminder, what we're going to be presenting here is sort of that next level of planning down from the draft supplemental environmental impact statement that we just discussed. We're going to be looking at some planning level concepts illustrating what could be designed. These concepts can be applied to the range of options and alternatives that are studied in the SDEIS. The intent of these concepts is to prompt discussion. We want to hear from you as to how these concepts or components of these concepts best meet or do not meet your values, and your input here is going to be used to inform the designs of the options that are ultimately selected as we move through the NEPA process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Malin and Nolan, who are going to run us through the Hayden Island stations.
Thanks, Matt. And we can jump to the next slide. So those of you that were at the CAG meeting last month, I can't believe it was last month already. Remember that we talked about the Vancouver waterfront station. This was our first opportunity to start talking about some of the choices that we have in front of us with regard to station configuration, the implications of slight adjustments to the location and circulation. So we'll be doing that today with Hayden Island. And then at future meetings, we'll cover Evergreen Station and Expo Station. Next. This will be less and less a focus as we go forward, but just a reminder that we're still referencing the community values and priorities that this CAG and the EAG have been discussing. We'll continue to do that. They different items among them will have different levels of emphasis at different stages in the work, but certainly we're thinking about them. And if there are discussions afterwards, it's always helpful for us to see if you identify ways that we could be addressing these community values and priorities through the design work. Next. And so as a reminder, these are the urban design focus areas. Last month, we were focused on urban design focus area E. Here, in bold is Hayden Island, urban design focus area C, and that's where our focus will be today. Next. So as with the other focus areas, we visited with you and shared with you the sort of focus area diagram, which really just organizes, here are the elements of the program in this zone. The 3 local streets are shown here in blue with the outline there. On either side of the highway are to the east, the shared use path, and then to the west in yellow is the light rail line. The red dash box shows the sort of flexibility that we might see in terms of the location. This is where we were last summer when you first saw this graphic. And so Malin is going to walk you through where we are today, and we'll try to do so as quickly as possible so we have a little bit of time for discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Nolan and Matt. And so as Matt was saying, we're really at the stage where we're exploring the location of the station within, hundreds a few hundred feet, and the configuration of the station and a functional configuration that is. And so that's the primary element there is sort of a center platform configuration or side platforms. And these things are all sort of related, and we'll walk through. We have 4 different options, one configuration for each location. But the 5 kind of overarching parameters that we're working within are really the edge of the off-ramp. So the north is up here, and this is Hayden Island, and I think people probably at this point have a good sense of reading the map there. So the parameters we're working with is the west edge of the off-ramp as it comes southbound, and then the east edge of the property line at the business Duluth Trading, where Center Avenue is shown there. Then we also have Tomahawk and Hayden Island Drive, those 2 blue arrows, which are in this, we highlight as bike ped connections, but they're also going to be the main roadway local street connections there. So those are givens. Something that we don't have a section drawing today to show you, but the station, that orange box where it moves within the red dash area, is approximately 30 feet tall. So significantly less high in the air than Waterfront Station that we talked about a month ago. But most of TriMet stations are at grade. So this is one of those few stations as a grade separation. And then the other context thing is Center Avenue. We're assuming Center Avenue is an access connection part of the project, and that will relate to one of the some of the options we're not showing, and I can kind of walk through those. So next slide, please. So eventually, what we're doing in an iterative way here is trying to evaluate the performance of these. Cost at this point really isn't, we're not seeing a big difference in cost between the options at this macro scale. So it's really which combination of location and configuration best really performs. So this is sort of just a peek at a working document as we're defining what the real program elements need to be and what things might be optional. And for the most part, most all of the program elements are considered sort of fixed. And a big aspect of that is there are going to be 2 elevators at all the station locations, and configurations have 2 elevators. So there's redundancy kind of in here. All of them have 2 access stairs. Unlike Waterfront Station, this station at 30 feet high, we're expecting a lot more people will just kind of go up and down the stairs at them. But nonetheless, it's important to have the elevators. All the stations are going to have 2 entrances at each end of the platform. One difference that we'll get to is we're attempting to have an access ramp, an accessible ramp for all the stations, but there's one station which it's more difficult to do that, and so I'll point that out. And so that's sort of the thing. But as Nolan was saying, all of these stations, we're keeping in mind those overarching community values. But at this next level that we're showing, we really get down to being able to consider overall access, visibility of the station, and really safety. You'll hear the word CPTED, or the acronym CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, basically trying to think about how public transit stations are used and making sure we do everything through the configuration location to make sure that we don't create problems. So with all this boring stuff, well, let's go to the next step. And so this is the first concept. So north has turned to the right here. Sorry to flip you back and forth a little bit. There's a little north arrow down the right-hand location, also a scale area bar. So that bar there is 160 feet. But really what we end up using a lot more is just the platform length that TriMet uses is a 200-foot platform. So the orange is platform. So this is the platform level, and the next slide, when we get to it, will be down the user level for people that come and go. But so to orient you, the new facility will have a southbound off ramp, and so there's a 10-foot gap. We need to stay away from that. And then the gray building on the middle on the right, that's the Duluth Trading Company, and that's currently the back side of that building. But we're anticipating in the future there will be redevelopment. So Center Avenue there will become an active place. Maybe we'll probably go to the next slide here. And that will show, in this one, the dashed line is everything up above. But when you come and go to the station, this is really what you're going to, use. So this is the center or the side platform station allows the entrances to be pushed out, more visible to the east side, which is you're seeing here. But what they require is when you get up to the platform level, I should have noted that it does require crossing the platforms or crossing the tracks. And that's an issue that is certainly possible. It happens throughout the TriMet system. However, it is, one issue of safety. So that's one of the main differences between the side and the center platform. So this is the side platform option. So what here we have, south of Tomahawk in the future, Center Avenue is not currently planned to continue to connection there, and that has to do with the off ramp and the freeway and things that we can get into if we need to, but really that's basically a given condition. However, between Tomahawk and Hayden Island, we're planning to retain a Center Avenue. And however, the actual program for that is still sort of being defined and frankly up for conversation, which is a lot of reason why we're talking here. So this location has the station spanning across Tomahawk, and that allows an entrance on the left side here, which is the south side. So people coming and going from the station to the south of Tomahawk don't have to cross Tomahawk. And the same with people going to the north, to and from the north, don't have to cross Tomahawk. What we've done here with Center Avenue, we've tried to extract as much width of Center Avenue to allow for as many possible futures as we can. We've interchanged those. You'll see those in the next three options, interchangeable a little bit. Some of them are interchangeable. Some of the options relate to the particular configuration. So this one, we're showing the opportunity for a wider sidewalk on the west side, which is the top right up against the Duluth Trading Company there. And here we're showing a two-way cycle track and the ability to have some parking on Center Avenue on the southbound side. The northbound side, the east side, we're reserving entirely for mobility connections. So bus, the lift service, and passenger pickup and drop off. So that's sort of the overarching context here. With the black dots you see are the columns for the guideway above. They may be double columns in some locations, and generally that's one of the features of the side platform station is we have probably more areas where we have fewer columns underneath the guideway. It's also possible that that area under the guideway may end up being fill. So you'll see the retained wall for I-5 above. It's not currently resolved exactly how all portions of the structure above are going to be held up, but that's a very important urban design consideration that we're working with the highway design team to kind of understand, to make sure that we try to make the spaces as safe as possible. And then off to the north side, the right, you'll see the dark teal. That's the shared use path of the program that comes down and engages the area here. So the teal color is really we've shown that that's north-south. There also will be bicycle facilities going both on Hayden Island Drive and Tomahawk. We haven't shown them yet because we haven't really worked with PBOT yet to get what their preferences are. So with that overview, I think we can go to the next option, concept B. And so this is in the same location. The platform spans over Tomahawk, which allows the entrances to come down directly. This option has a little bit more restrictions on exactly where the entrance can be on the ground. However, it eliminates most of the track crossings, and I say most because on the south entrance, you can see that's a ramp, and so it's a rather extensive ramp because the station's 30 feet tall. So, but nonetheless, it is feasible. There are other stations that have this, and even though the redundancy of having 2 elevators is there will be people that want to wheel their bike up to the station, and I say that deliberately. Wheel it. We're not trying to design something that allows people to ride their bike all the way up to the platform. But there also may be people who feel more comfortable going up on a ramp than an elevator, or if the southern elevator is down for service or maintenance, they prefer to use the ramp rather than cross the street and use the other elevator. So that's really the differences we're looking at here. So now we can go to the next slide down below. Well, actually, go back. I want to say one thing. So when I should have let off, design can be a kind of all-encompassing word, and really, that is the context. We're really location configuration here. So one thing you're not seeing is we're not showing form and character of the station, and we're not showing weather protection, which is really a functional issue. But there are plenty of examples of both side platforms and center platforms where we can provide adequate weather protection, just like the Evergreen or the waterfront station. However, we will have the additional consideration of being adjacent to the freeway. But at this point, we're really confident, that we can equally protect patrons on the platform, whether it's a side platform or a center platform from the freeway. It's going to be a given. So we're not kind of confusing that issue yet. So anyway, go back down to the base. So here, as I was saying, we really have less ability to move the station entrances around. They are required to be a little bit more underneath the guideway. So that is somewhat of a consideration. They're a little bit less visible. However, we started to look at this in 3D. We don't have 3D ready to show yet today. And we're generally not feeling that it's buried too far to be an onerous consideration. In fact, there may be some benefits for weather protection having it underneath there, but that's an example of some of the things that we're sort of considering here. So those are the side platform and this being the center platform options that are both straddling Tomahawk. And the primary advantage we're feeling here is because most of the future development will be happening to the south and the southwest, related to restrictions for certain development that happens to the north. So we're sort of paying homage a little bit to that, to where the future people are going to be coming and going from. With that, maybe I'll just keep on going, and if there's any urgent questions, just jump in if I'm not being clear. Well, this is a good example here actually to show the double columns. So that's not to say we can't do some of this with single columns, but generally the center platform the center platform requires the tracks to split apart. And as they split apart, there's a stronger rationale for having 2 columns to hold it up. So, these are sort of secondary considerations. They're important, but they're just the things we're sort of thinking about. So as we go to the next option, and if you're astute, you will notice that we jump from B to D. What was missing here is the C options, and those were earlier options which were pushed all the way north right up to Hayden Island. And what we found was that that was restricting the Center Avenue almost to the point of not really allowing a Center Avenue. And we're feeling it's pretty important to keep the ability to have Center Avenue to make mobility connections, particularly a bus. And albeit there isn't currently a specific program for a bus, specific bus routes planned here, it just seems prudent to think that there's going to be some need for a circulator, or it's just a good idea to have access. And if Center Avenue didn't connect Hayden Island and Tomahawk here, just as a local way, it would really require anybody to get into the bigger grid, which opens up opportunities to get caught up in congestion and so forth. So this station, however, this station again goes back to the side platform. And as you can see, if you come up on the stairs and elevator, you're going to need to, if you're going north, you're going to need to cross the tracks, or when you get off coming north, which is probably more likely in this location in the overall system, you're going to have to cross the tracks. And what we've ghosted in here on the right-hand side is that a ramp here. The ramp on the earlier options, we have some ability to sort of integrate it into the grade, which is rising. Here, it would be pretty much a standalone ramp. So it starts imposing visual restrictions that we'd have to be, manage and design. So if we go down to the next, the ground level of this option, there's a plaza space there. We have the orange dots, which are the bus and the lift locations, and then the blue dot, which is any sort of vehicles. And there's a lot of way to manage that curb space, whether it's for rideshare cars or whether it's just general pickup and drop off. And we have some ability here to expand that space as well. So again, we've ghosted in the ramp. It is possible to get a ramp in here. It's just a little bit more complex. And trying to think, so another feature of this when we get to Center Avenue is as the station location shifts from Tomahawk down to between Tomahawk and Hayden Island, you can see the geometry sort of restricts here, and that leaves us less width on Center Avenue. So we have fewer options on Center Avenue. And a good example here is the southbound on Center Avenue. We have space for a lane, so cars can circulate going south, but not really enough space for them to pull over and stop. However, as I began the whole presentation, everything is based on assumptions that are somewhat flexible. So this is the Duluth Trading Company. There is that is a very, very large lot. And so it wouldn't be unheard of for the city of Portland to require setbacks and requirements, or even just the landowner, developer to want to have space for cars for parallel parking and so forth there. So we're just saying, as a starting point, we're trying not to broach that property line. We're trying to see what's possible without relying on additional measures there. So what you're looking at here is the primary purpose is making that mobility connection. A secondary purpose, I guess, would be for Center Avenue to service and sort of catalyze, support an active retail street, because that's the ultimate goal here, is to make a place that's welcoming and has some energy to it.
Balin,
yeah,
we have one hand up, so I wanted
Excellent.
to just stop for
Perfect.
a moment and see if you might be able to address either Bill's comment or question. So Bill?
Yeah, mine's a comment. I mean, a question would be quick. Is this, are these ramps and properties and all that and the rails going along the side, are they taking over any current properties that are owned by folks now? Are we going to, have to move people or buy their properties or whatever we do to have this done? Is it currently built on now, or is it all empty property now that's going to be just expanded upon? I don't know if I asked that the right way.
Well, I think so, and maybe Matt might want to answer that. It's my understanding that currently we're showing everything is on public land
So Bill,
within this area.
yeah. So thank you for the question, first of all, and that it's a
Yeah.
really great question. And the intent here was to focus just on the transit, the general concept. I would refer to the draft supplemental when it comes out, and it will go into a lot more detail on potential property impacts. Thank you.
Was there another comment? I can't see everybody's hands, so.
It's the only question that we have right now. I know you're getting very close to the end of your
Yes.
slides,
No,
which
it's
is
okay.
terrific. No. I've always, I'm concerned about shrinking any part of our content because it's so important to have enough time. So,
well, it's trick being both comprehensive and concise. So
exactly. Thank you.
And there's just one more, which is very similar, and I don't think probably needs a lot more explanation. Well, I guess maybe on this one I should say we're still addressing that north-south bike way, and not the east-west necessarily. But this is an example, because we have less space on Center Avenue, we have to move the cycle track over to the back side of essentially where that is. That's not necessarily better or worse. We're not at the point of sort of evaluating that. It's just we're finding a way to accommodate it. So to go to the last option here, E. This is, again, the location is between Hayden Island and Tomahawk, and the configuration is center platform. So then from there we can move again to the ground level, which is how people experience it. And that will be so one more slide. And so that's here. And so this one, again, it pushes. We don't have as much flexibility with how the stairs and elevators are configured, so they really are restricted. But we're not seeing that as a major issue necessarily, given the space constraints. So with that, I think, except Nolan can, I usually miss something. We've put a lot of thought in this. If there's anything I missed, important, weigh in.
I didn't think
Tom. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nolan.
Well, the only thing I'll say about Malin's comment on whether we missed something, this won't be the last time we see you about these concepts. And so don't feel like this is your only time to ask questions or get answers.
Perfect.
Thank you, Nolan. We have 2 hands up already. And I want to watch our time just a little bit because we do have, I think, at least one person that's interested in public comment. So let's go until 5:50. So Tom.
Thank you. Excuse me. One of my comments was, I hope we're going to revisit this because I'm disappointed we don't have elevations, and I'd like to see the elevations in order to fully understand how this all works. I did want to comment briefly that it does seem to make common sense to me that the options that straddle Tomahawk Drive create more options for the community for access to the platform, without having to choose to cross the street. If you're approaching from the south of the island, then there's just one less street to subject yourself to that modest safety risk of crossing a street. So all else being equal, from a safety point of view, it seems that having access on both sides of the street is just slightly more safe by default. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Great. And I guess I'm just going to jump in. There is one thing I forgot. This is the one option where we weren't able to fit in a ramp. So that's just a notable difference of this one. Just there wasn't enough space. Given the Center Avenue, we're considering that a necessary component.
Martha, you have your hand up as well. Do you need the slide up, or should we take the slides down?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I know that you are working on elevations and things, so we'll be able to see this in more detail another time. But what I was wondering is if you could find stations that have similar designs that are actually being used today, so we could see what the actual thing looks like and find out how people use them. Like, I mean, this one is 30 feet, give or take, and the one across the river in Vancouver is going to be 70 feet or so. And I would like to see, like, I don't know, Vancouver, BC, or New York, or somewhere where they have elevated rail like this, to see how people actually use them, rather than just, you know, your nice drawings of what you think it's going to look like. But I want to see the actual thing if I can. That's all.
Thank you. That's definitely, we can do that.
We had one more slide, which was just a discussion slide to ask if there were questions, design elements that relate to the concepts that align with the community values and priorities. We went through this presentation really quick, and we don't want to move so fast that you don't have time to provide input. So I do want to see, is there anyone that has other questions or comments? And if you feel like you do after the presentation, maybe even tomorrow, we're always open to having you provide us with either a call or an email so that we can make sure there's enough time and space to talk about this. Michaela.
Yes, just really quick. I would love to know, based off of each of those concepts, like what are we looking at in terms of like our price point? Like, which are the most expensive to build? Which ones are the cheapest to build? Like, are there any pros and cons based off of like that number? I think that would be also something that would be helpful.
Generally, within the scope of the project, I think it's fair to say these are all equal at this point in cost. But part of what the process of looking at these options is unearthing things that that sometimes aren't apparent, and testing and questioning things. And so there is a feedback with the engineering and the operations people, because there's two costs related to these stations. One is the original capital cost, but the other is the operational cost of how they work. And Matt, you know, I'm the architect speaking. Matt isn't able to kick me under the table for saying anything.
Malin, yeah, that was absolutely spot on. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't want to shut down the conversation or not give folks enough time to ask questions. So why don't we go ahead and open up public comment? Our presentation team is still with us. And so if we have some additional time and there's more questions or comments, then please feel free to ask. Again, we really want to encourage you to reach out to us because we want to make sure that we get your feedback. Upcoming advisory groups, we have an equity advisory group meeting on the 19th from 5:30 to 7:30, a community benefits advisory group meeting from 9:30 to 11:30 on February 22nd. And then we'll be back together again on March 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. Public comment. So we want to go through the slides just real quick here, make sure that folks know to make a live comment via phone, dial 1-646-931-3860. A meeting ID is 986-0940-5983. Passcode is 701376. Go ahead and dial *9 to raise your hand. I will call on you to provide comments, and *6 to unmute yourself. We'd like for you to provide your name and affiliation. We have 10 minutes. It'll be divided among the number of requested speakers. We'll start with a limit of 2 minutes per person so that we can make sure that we have the opportunity to hear from any of our public that wants to address the community advisory group. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and admit, and Xander, I'm hoping you have access to a timer. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like Bob Orblatt, that you are interested in making a comment to the public. Bob's entering the room right now. Hi, Bob, can you hear me? Advisory group meeting on the 19th from 5:30 to 7:30. You can hear yourself. Benefits advisory group meeting from 9:30 to 11:30 on February 22nd. And then we'll be back together again on March 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I can hear myself through the YouTube. Can you go ahead and mute the YouTube? Make sure that folks know to make a live comment via phone. Dial 1-646-931-3860. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute Bob for a minute until we get caught up here, because hearing myself say the same thing, I'm sure none of you want to hear it twice. So Bob, are you ready to provide public comment?
I am ready.
All right, go
I
ahead
should-
and address the community.
Should I turn my video on, or should I just leave that?
We can see you. Your video was on.
It is on. Okay,
Keep it
very
on.
good. Very good. Turn it back on.
Hi.
Yeah. I'm Bob Wertblad, a Washington resident and 40 years a civil engineer. The IBR is offering only two options right now. They're offering the high bridge at 116 feet fixed span, and they're offering the if that's rejected by the Coast Guard, you're going to be stuck with the lift bridge, which few people want. There is a third option, an immersed tunnel, that was recommended by the U.S. Coast Guard. It has no navigation problems, it's unlimited clearance, and no piers, obviously. The U.S. Coast Guard, this was the IBR in 2021. The IBR intentionally disqualified an immersed tunnel with a report that has been discredited with the public disclosure request, my request. They wildly exaggerated many of the quantities on the immersed tunnel evaluation. A year later, after this report, in 2022, the U.S. Coast Guard instructed the IBR to continue evaluating an immersed tunnel, and the IBR has ignored the U.S. Coast Guard. BC rejected a new high bridge across the Fraser River recently, in the last 10 years, I guess, for environmental reasons. They are building a new immersed tunnel under a deeper river with ocean-going traffic. An immersed tunnel would cost less, could be built in half the time, would be safer because it's weather protected with less grade. Instead of having massive approaches and interchanges on both banks, you could have waterfront parks. It would also be much more earthquake resistant. Also, you would get ground level stations for your light rail. Those stations up in the air are ridiculous, 70 feet and 30 feet. I mean, you guys are way down the path. I think an awful lot of money has been spent that I think has been wasted, frankly. So anyway, that's my comment. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you making time to provide public comment to the community advisory group.
Thank
Xander,
you.
are there any other members of the community that are interested in addressing the community advisory group?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we are at the end of the meeting, and I just want to check in to see if anybody had any additional questions. We have probably a couple minutes, and then I will turn it over to Lynn and Ed to wrap us up. And I'm not seeing Assistant Program Director Ray on the call any longer, but any other questions before Lynn and Ed wrap up? Okay, it looks like we've lost a few folks as we get closer to that 6 o'clock timeline. So Lynn and Ed, do you want to wrap us up?
I talked a lot at the beginning, so I will let Ed send us off with his usual bon vivant kind of style. So Ed, will you send us on our merry way? You're muted, my friend. But still awesome.
Thank you. Just like to thank you all for being here this evening, and thank the presenters for an excellent presentation. And this was a very good meeting. You guys drive carefully on your way home. Have a great evening, have a great dinner. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Now, Lynn, I'm sure you have a couple of words, or 3 or 4, none at all. So if Lynn doesn't have any words, have a great evening. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the Super Bowl.